Coming up next, we have another man who was targeted by the regime for trying to defend freedom, for trying to demand honesty in elections. As a pastor from Florida, Cusick, please come on up.
Good morning. My name is Cusick, and the reason that I'm here standing before you today, and I don't think it could have been any more perfect to go after Congressman Stockman, is because on June 24th, 2021, the FBI, the current Gestapo in this country, came and showed up at my door with AR-15s drawn on not only me, but my 3-year-old daughter and my 1-year-old daughter and my wife, because I attended the January 6th rally in D.C. We decided to go to the rally that day. We went to the rally. We had no idea there was going to be anything even happening at the Capitol. I know some people that went up there knew. I didn't. We didn't. We went there simply to go visit Washington and support President Trump, because we all know the 2020 election simply and utterly was stolen from us. So we went down to the Capitol a little bit later after, and President Trump, during his speech, even mentioned, after this, we're all going to go down to the Capitol where we're going to peacefully and politically protest our right for a stolen election. And he even said, and I'm going to join you. We never would have even gone down there had he not mentioned to us that he would be joining us. 6 months later, after that day, the FBI shows up at my door, like I said, with AR-15s drawn on me, my daughters, asked me where my father was that day, who also attended that rally. I said, you know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I assume he's at his house. Well, just to let you know, he's being hit right now, too. So a SWAT team was also at my father's house about 10 miles away, as well as another gentleman that we went to the rally with, a family friend. So 3 different homes they hit that day in regards to us going to Washington, D.C. We were all arrested. We all had to give in our hat that we wore, or in my case, it was a hoodie and a North Face jacket, to the FBI, where they asked if you'll give me this. And they showed me the paper, showed me a picture, pointed to it and said, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, and it was a supposed warrant in regards to seizing those documents. And I said, so you're telling me if I just give you that, you're not going to ransack my house? They said, yes, sir. And he said, sir, listen, we're not here to hurt you. We're not here to harm your family. We're just following orders. And I said simply, that sounds so too familiar to me, just following orders. So 2.5 years went by through the court battle that we were in, because we refused. There was one man, just speaking from my experience, that stood with us. He's an attorney. His name's John Pierce. He founded the NCLU. He's one of the only ones that would take our case at the time. Nobody was really taking cases. We refused to plead guilty because we didn't do anything. We were slapped with 3 misdemeanors: violent entry into the Capitol, disorderly and disruptive conduct, as well as entering and remaining inside a Capitol building, because I went inside after seeing children, grandmothers, all race, all age, go in and out, standing next to police officers where there was an open door. Went in to use the restroom, walked out within 10 minutes' time, and were charged later on with all these charges. Thankfully, we didn't plea out. We took it to court. We went all the way through the process. 2023 of July last year, we were found guilty by a quote-unquote jury of our peers, which I can promise you I've never been more disgusted, not only as an American citizen, but as a human being, when sitting through jury selection, when the jurors were asked by the judge, do you have a political foundation built or bias based on what happened in the 2020 election? All jurors in the pool said, yes, we do. The election was fair and free. Some were so harsh in their criticism of Donald Trump in the election and or January 6th, they had to be struck from the record even by the judge himself. Do you have a political bias based on what happened on January 6th? Yes, it was the worst day in American history. Forgetting the summer before that their city was nearly not only burnt to the ground, but their stores were looted, homes were raided. People were forced to stand up in solidarity with this group that called themselves peaceful. And anyway, the judge, could you guys put your political bias aside to judge these gentlemen, because we were all consolidated into one case, These gentlemen, based on what they did that day, you know what, Your Honor? I don't think I could. You don't think you could put your political bias aside? Your Honor, it would just be so tough for me. I just don't think I could. Well, could you at least try? Could you at least try to put your, you know, maybe I can try. I'll try. You're a juror on our jury. This is the jury, and I stand by and I bear witness to this. I am just an average American citizen. I'm not a politician. I'm not a celebrity in any way. If they'll do this to me, the reason I'm standing here today is to tell you, they'll do it to each and every one of you. So after going through that, the jury deliberated maybe 20 minutes to an hour. You know, there was lunch in between, so I don't know how much deliberation they did. Guilty on all counts that day. We had to go back home and then back out for sentencing in October, where the judge admittedly said to us that, you know, although these gentlemen didn't do what they were convicted of, by being there that day, that we contributed as a drip in the flood to what happened that day. So they set a precedent in this country that by being at an event, if someone else commits a crime, you yourself are now guilty of that. And believe me, and I tell everybody this, my father's a 40-year pastor. He was a military veteran. He volunteered for the Vietnam War. Purple Heart veteran, Bronze Star awarded, never convicted of a crime in his life. And they went after him too. So they want each of us. And I'm telling everybody what they did to J6ers, what I've seen within the J6 community now is they want to do it to each and every one of you God-fearing people who believe in Judeo-Christian principle, who stand up for our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. They want to make the Bible hate speech, and they want to come after every single one of us, because I've seen it time and again within the J6 court battles. They hold them accountable, not so much for what they did that day, but what they said. Because now you don't have freedom of speech anymore. Without our First Amendment, we don't have freedom of religion, we don't have freedom of speech. We already know freedom of the press is under attack. I mean, the fake news media will do everything they can to slander. We all dealt with local, personal slandering from our local media, CBS, ABC, Fox, and I lost my small business on account of that. I know one of the other guys we're with, he owns a small business. His business was hit as well. But going through all that to tell you that the reason I'm here today is for prisoners' rights, because after going to jail, the judge sentenced us to 10 days in prison, and he gave us 10 days because he said we weren't remorseful enough for what happened that day. 10 days in prison, 2 years supervised release, as well as 2 years probation, which even my probation officer said he's never seen both probation and supervised release on misdemeanors. The guards in prison both said, all the guards in prison laughed when finding out that I was there based on J6, because they said shouldn't even be in a federal prison based on the fact that I don't have any felony counts or felony charges. While visiting prison, and I say visiting because it was only 10 days, I was opened up and shown how corrupt our prison system is. I was shown that our men, these are men that sit within this prison, just like what the congressman just told you. There are men in there that are being served food that is not days, weeks, or months expired, but years expired. The eggs smell like sulfur because they are so rotten and disgusting. And every single morning, this is what they're subjected to. The commissary is corrupt as anything. They're charging men much more money for items that you would buy here in the store or there, as well as selling them ice cream. Ben & Jerry's, in fact, that was when I was in, was November 2023. They were eating ice cream that was from 2020, 3 years that ice cream had been expired. These prisons buy up expired goods so that saves them money, and we all know where the money goes. Roaches infested under the water filtration system. Now, this is only one prison. I was in one prison. It was in Texarkana, Texas. But after getting out and after meeting many of the men, just like he said, if the government wants you and they want to put you in prison, they will do it. It doesn't matter. Look what's happening to our president, President Trump. He's a billionaire, and they're hitting him in every way, shape. Money won't buy you out of how corrupt this system is. And I know my dad, the other individual we were with, and me will tell you this system is corrupt. And our justice system almost doesn't need to be reformed. It needs to be completely rebuilt because it is corrupt at the highest level between the judges, between the prosecution, which, by the way, with a microphone just like this, would sit while you're on the stand. Objection, objection, objection over every single thing that you say or any witness that you've brought in on your behalf. So I started an organization when I got out. As the judge asked the jurors, could they at least try? After I got out, it was the day before Thanksgiving, I cried the first hour on the way home because I met so many good men that were in prison wrongfully. And I started an organization, and it's called Liberty's Light. It's a prison reform coalition. libertieslight.org. You can go. I'm doing my best to get that organization seeded and funded so that we can do something about the food that they're feeding these men. You heard him talk about having diabetes. You heard him talk about medical things. I've watched men that have diabetes that need to get their diabetic shots right before they eat. It's delayed for this reason or that reason. Nothing's taken personal. They throw men in the SHU, as he said, the special housing unit, any reason they want to. Nothing is followed. They don't follow the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. So our motto is humanity behind the bars. I know once they're sentenced, there's not much you can do outside of a pardon for anybody, but I do know that we can do better as Americans in this country in our prison system. We need to have things like rehabilitation to where we don't have reoffenders. We have this all the time. Other countries in the world have much better systems than what we have, and they don't have the reoffenders. The government set up a system against us. There are men within that prison that are working every single day because they're forced to. Now, we talk about forced labor in China. These men within the prison disassembled the one I was at, electronics, as well as built air conditioning filters for they actually have a contract with military bases. So the corruption, and guess how much money they can make an hour? The most they can ever get up to is 50 cents an hour, which is something like $1,000 within a year. This is our prison system in the United States. So if you'd like to help me out, if you'd like to go ahead and go to libertieslight.com. I'm partnered with the African American Education Alliance. It is so important to do something about this, but even more importantly than that, before we can, I feel like, do anything about freedom of speech or any of these things, we must put President Trump back in the White House because he's the only one out there. And I don't care whether you like everything he does. Listen, Jesus isn't going to come back and be our president, unfortunately, until he does. We're subjected to man who has issues. Everybody doesn't have everything together, but he's the only one fighting for us. He's the only one fighting on our behalf as Americans. He's the only one telling everybody we must put our country before all these other countries. We must put our country before all these foreign wars. So I encourage you, and it's us, the evangelical Christians. If we alone can decide this election, there's 40% of us that vote in regular elections. It shouldn't be that way. Get out and vote, and don't forget libertieslight.org. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a great day.